Rejection happens, people. It's a thing. It might make you feel angry, embarrassed, disappointed. I mean, sometimes it's humiliating, but hey, you get over it. I have a feeling that most people have gone through it and they came out just fine, except for some, like the guy who we are going to talk about. So, what happened to Miya Marcano? Let's dive in. Miya was born on April 26, 2002 to her mom Yumas Gabrielle and dad Marlon Marcano. Her dad is a famous DJ based in Florida who goes by DJ Eternal Vibes. She also has an older brother called Marlon Jr. However, their parents divorced and her mom went to live in the Virgin Islands while her dad remarried a lady called Giselle Blanche, who's like a second mom to them. Giselle and Malcolm live in South Florida. Her family nicknamed her Mimi, and she is said to have been the princess. She was a smart girl, ambitious, confident, and loved by her family so much. She graduated from Charles Flanagan High School in May 2020 and in that same year decided to join the University of Central Florida, but then transferred and enrolled at Valencia College in Orlando in her sophomore year. She was pursuing an art degree and was also considering a course in sports medicine or physiotherapy. She then got a part-time job at a leasing office in Eden Villas, which was a student housing complex that was located near the University of Central Florida. She decided to get an apartment there as well. She told her family about it and her father helped with the move to Eden Villa, installed locks on the windows for security purposes and always reminded her to carry pepper spray for her own protection. Now let me introduce a man by the name Armando Caballero. Armando was a maintenance guy at the villa, the same place where Miya lived. Now this guy was hitting on her, but Miya always rejected his advances. She clearly told him she was not interested and turned him down several times. He kept insisting to a point where Miya actually had to tell her family about it. Now on Friday, September 24th, 2021, Miya left work at around 5 p.m. She had a flight to catch to Fort Lauderdale to visit her family. She went to her apartment to grab her suitcase, but she never came out. So what happened? Well, we'll get there. Her family started to worry when she stopped responding to their texts and calls. It was not like Miya. But then they thought maybe she was busy trying to catch her flight or her phone had a problem. But when the flight landed and she wasn't there, they became extra worried. And to add on top of that, her phone was not even going through. At 9:23 p.m., her mom called Orange Sheriff's office and asked them if they could do a welfare check on her. An officer went to her apartment to check on her. He knocked and knocked, but no one answered. A few minutes later, her roommate arrived and opened the door. Her room door had been unlocked, but something was blocking it from the inside. It was a heavy bookshelf. The officer went to the window and peered through. He noticed that the window locks had been broken, there was jewelry on the floor and red stains on her pillow. It was blood. He asked the roommate if she had had any contact with her, and she said that Miya had sent her a text message at around 5 p.m. saying that she was heading to the airport. When asked if there was anyone who would want to harm her, she said Armando Caballero, the maintenance guy. She told the officer that he'd been harassing her, asking her on dates, and wouldn't stop flirting with her. Her family called the sheriff's office back, but no one answered. They also called the villa's management line, but no one answered as well, and so they decided to go over to Orlando because they believed that something had happened to her. They arrived at the apartments at around 3 a.m. and asked to be given access to Miya's room. Surprisingly, even after what the police had found, the place had not been declared a crime scene. They decided to do their own investigation. The first thing they found was a yellow box cutter under a rug that wasn't hers. A few minutes later, Armando showed up. It was weird for him to show up at 4 a.m. while off duty, and when he asked them if they were looking for Miya, they got super angry. They were mad. Like, how did he even know that she was missing? They hadn't told anyone, and besides, he was the last person they expected to come face to face with. So they confronted him because they were suspicious of him, and they did this majorly because Miya had informed them about his unending advances towards her and how she wasn't comfortable around him. Even after this confrontation and suspicious behavior, the police did not arrest him for questioning. They then saw him take some things from his car, a pink blanket, gloves, and a black backpack. They recognized the blanket. It was Miya's. They then called 911. The police confronted Armando about it, but they couldn't legally go inside his house to do a search because they had no search warrant. He did eventually let the family in, but they found nothing significant. They were very disappointed. A missing persons report was filed on the 25th, Miya's that is, and an arrest warrant was issued upon Armando. A few hours later, officers raided his house, but he was not there. Their only suspect was nowhere to be found. Investigations then began officially. Investigators found out that around 2 p.m. on the day that Miya disappeared, someone had opened her apartment using an on-call maintenance key fob. The only person who had that was Armando. At 4:30 p.m., the door was opened again by Armando. And then at 5 or 6 p.m., Miya opened the door. So Armando was already inside the apartment by the time Miya got there. Almost an hour later, his car left the apartment complex. It said that he took her out through the window to avoid surveillance. At 7:16 p.m., he made a fake maintenance call to the apartment complex, and 10 minutes later, he was let in. He was probably trying to establish an alibi. He then left at around 7:38 p.m. Now, Miya's family was getting more and more frustrated. They decided to distribute posters of her, posted her pics on social media, and asked everyone who had any info to come forward. And they even offered a $15,000 reward for the info. They also begged whoever had her to return her alive. Newsrooms picked the story, and people were starting to see her face on the screens. On September 27th, a 911 call was made. A man had been found hanging in the garage of another apartment. It was Armando. Investigations concluded that he had been dead for quite a while, and he actually committed suicide. Miya's family was furious because, according to them, he had taken a cowardly way out, and remember, he was the only one who knew where Miya was. Now, this wasn't looking good. A search for Miya started, and people came in to help. They searched in rivers, lakes, bushes, swamps, anywhere for any sign of her. By September 30th, the search team had conducted over 30 searches in 3 counties. Various resources such as helicopters, police dogs, and dive teams were used during the search. Now, this case gained national attention, and the family wanted the FBI to help out. Miya's family and friends held candlelit vigils to pray for her safe return. The task force had started to retrace Armando's footsteps on the day of her disappearance. Digital surveillance and phone records were pulled, and they began retracing his steps. They found out that he had visited a place called Timberscan. Now, this is a rough neighborhood in Orlando where all manners of crimes, anything gun, murders, drugs, take place. The place was abandoned, people moved out due to insecurity majorly, and it became a gang territory. It was discovered that this had been his neighborhood at some point in his life, and so he knew the place well. A search team was sent to the area. On October 2nd, her body was found, hidden in a wooden area near Timberscan. Her hands and feet were bound with duct tape, and she had duct tape covering her mouth as well. Her purse was found nearby, and it contained the shirt that she was seen last wearing. She was partially dressed in her jeans, bra, and robe. The family was given the news, and they were totally crushed, as this was not the outcome they were expecting. They were still holding on to some hope that she'll be found alive. An emotional vigil was held in her honor, and hundreds of people came to show support for her family. It was the largest crowd since the vigils began. The family mourned the loss of Miya. On October 14, 2021, her weekend service were held at Cooper City Church of God, and she was laid to rest at Bailey Gardens in North Lauderdale. Towards the end of December 2021, her autopsy was finally released. It stated that due to the level of decomposition, the cause of death couldn't be determined. It was ruled as a homicide by undetermined means, so we really don't know how she died. This devastated the family even more because they were now left to speculate. The family wanted to honor their daughter, and so they filed for a law that would make sure any resident felt safe in their apartment. And on June 27, 2022, Florida governor signed the Miya's Law. They also started the Miya Marcano Foundation, which is a non-profit that supports families of missing persons. The family also filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the management of Eden Villas, claiming they were partially to blame for what happened. They didn't do enough to protect her. It was discovered that this was not Armando's first offense. He had run-ins with the authorities a few times. For instance, in March 2021, while working at a different apartment, he sent a note to a 24-year-old girl asking her out on a date. She accepted and agreed to meet him a few days later. When he asked her to change the date to that night, she decided to change her mind instead and turned him down. Hours later, while in her room, gimwits were thrown through her window. She was convinced that it was him taking out his anger on her for rejecting his advances. When the complex management was asked why he was hired, considering his offenses, they said that they did a background check on him and that the records belonged to a person with a similar name. But unless he shared his first name, middle and last name, and date of birth with the man, we are being played here. On September 23rd, 2022, 1 year after her disappearance, her friends and family reunited at Arden Villas to keep her memory alive. Maybe I've watched so many movies, or maybe it's actually a thing, but the minute Armando showed up at the apartment on the night that Miya had disappeared, the morning actually, because it was around 3 a.m., clearly makes him a person of interest. Maybe he wanted to know how far the investigations were. I mean, why else would he be there? It's not like he was a family friend or her friend, he was actually her stalker. I don't know why he wasn't even taken in for questioning at that time. And the other thing, why would someone have access to other people's rooms? Personally, I don't think I would want to live in a place where I get to share a key with a total stranger. Call me whatever, but that won't work for me. I need to feel safe in my place. I mean, come on. And the last thing, rejection hurts, guys, but it doesn't kill. The sooner you get over it, the better. Wanting someone is some sort of an informal interview. The answer can be either yes or no. Either way, life moves on. Don't end someone's life just because they said no. Accept and move on. Thanks for watching. See you in my next one.